Hello, everyone. Drew here for at Underground, back with number 4, or episode number 4, rather, of Brouhaha, the stream in which my brother and I get together to talk about the week that was of the NFL football season, as in week 11 just concluded last night with a blowout on Monday Night Football, which is almost reminiscent of the Viking Cowboy game, which we'll get into as well, which leads me to go, I'm not sure if Minnesota has a professional football team anymore. They were beaten so bad. But either way, on that note, obviously joining me is my younger brother. Hey Rob.
Hey there.
How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Before we get into anything specific, what are your initial surface thoughts about Week 11?
There were a lot of surprises, or at least quite a few, anyway. A couple of outcomes I didn't see coming. Definitely.
Yeah.
Some close ones, though. That's the other thing. A whole bunch of these games were really close. Like, it was one play type of win, you know?
Yeah. So,
yeah, there's definitely a lot to discuss, for sure.
Indeed, and we will get into all of it and then some here. So, to kick things off, Thursday Night Football back on the 17th, Titans beat the Packers 27-17.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure we both had the Titans winning that, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we were coming off of looking at amazing Packers victory last week, and thought, maybe, but we're still sort of wondering where that even came from because the Packers have been anemic all year on offense.
Which turned out to be a fluke, as it turned out.
We both had picked the Titans because we knew the Titans were keeping along all year, doing their thing, not really struggling that much.
And
the Packers definitely been dragging their asses.
And my notes on the Packers Titans game, because I watched it on Amazon Prime at the time. Although I watched the second half of it because I was sleeping during the first half, but my notes are, where's the Packers defense in the third quarter?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my final note on that game is the Packers should change their name to the Droppers from the Packers.
Yeah, especially after that game.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, it was an expected outcome.
And as it turned out, I was wrong to drop Rodgers for Justin Fields. And speaking of which, the Bears lose to the Falcons 27-24, and Justin Fields didn't do jack fucking shit. So.
Yeah, he was human in that game. He was normal in that game.
Human normal? That would have been an improvement.
And the reason that happened, was because for whatever decision reason they came up with, they finally decided to start using the running back again. Oh my God, what a shocker.
And they started
to use Montgomery.
And they started having Justin Fields throw the football, which apparently he can't do.
Yeah, apparently he really doesn't throw as well as he runs.
Yeah, so they should switch Fields to running back and draft a quarterback. Or go find a franchise quarterback, because Fields ain't it.
Yeah, he's not versatile enough to handle both operations.
Yeah.
And he's not making up for it in the pass game. So a quarterback that can only run, as soon as the defenses figure that out, they're going to just stuff his ass repeatedly, and it'll be all game over. Season 2, he'll be hurt, and he'll be out, and it'll be over for him. After this breakout season of running the ball like crazy, he won't be able to do that year 2. So get ready. They're going to be back not having a useful quarterback again.
So on that note, and I know you can't see this because you're not watching the stream, but I'm not talking to you when I say this. This means your opinion now, motherfucker, is irrelevant. I was pointing at the Bears' head behind me.
The Bears could have won that game because it ended up being a close game anyway. Because the Falcons' offense was not as hot as they normally are, and their defense is the real problem for the Falcons because they don't stop anybody.
Yeah.
They don't seem to stop anybody from doing what they want to do on the other side. So the Falcons are constantly playing keep up with high scoring offenses. Even for teams that are not high scoring, they're giving up a bunch of points.
Yeah.
So the Falcons defense needs a redo. Their offense was what was a little bit less useful this time around. They still won the game. So this was not like some big, they don't have to take an L on this. They got a W.
Yeah.
So the Falcons are still surviving on the grace of 3-point gods, so to speak.
Speaking of 3-point gods, that's the score of the loser of the next one.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Apparently the offense of the Carolina Panthers went out to dinner recently with the offense and the defense of the Minnesota Vikings.
You mean
the Ravens beat the Panthers 13-3.
Yeah, the thing about that is that the Panthers defense throughout that game was doing quite well.
Yeah, that's the only side of the Panthers team that showed up was the defense. The offense didn't.
They were giving Lamar Jackson hell all game.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he got 13 out of this, or they got 13 out of this, is really a testament to how kind of off the Panthers offense is.
Yeah.
Panthers offense is more likely to score points for the other team than they are for their own side.
Yeah, the Panthers scored as many points as the Vikings, and the Vikings have all this talent on offense. They did nothing with it. But we'll get to the Vikings shortly.
Yeah, you keep saying the Vikings, but we're not talking about that game. That's the difference.
But
we'll get into that.
But there is a comparison here because of the points that Panthers scored. It was the same damn thing.
No, I get it. But you see, the Panthers have been struggling on offense all year.
Yeah.
They've had only a few good games where they've scored anything worth talking about.
They've won
a few games.
That's why I said
it's not been pretty.
That's why I said the Panthers offense went out to lunch with the Vikings offense this week. That's why I said that earlier.
Well, I guess the Vikings were watching Panthers offensive videotape and going, "Yeah, let's do that."
Yeah.
Pretty much.
However,
the Ravens versus Panthers was pretty much maybe the Panthers defense can do it, maybe they can't, but the Ravens offense is where it's going to be at. And the Ravens offense got smothered quite a bit, but they still managed to win the game.
Yeah.
So, it was a tough test for the Ravens offense, definitely.
But they did do it. But however, the next game was a lot more competitive. The Bills beat the Browns 31-23.
Yeah, this one was, I suppose, not surprising. If it were last year's Bills, they would have trounced the Browns. It would have been a beatdown.
Yeah.
But it was rather close because the Browns' offense actually functioned. Given what we've seen with the Bills' defense this year, which has been not great, the Bills are not the complete team they were last year.
Yeah.
There's something missing this year. But yeah, the Bills' defense gave up more points this time around than they would have otherwise, and came real close to not winning this game. This was a closer game than it looks like on paper. On paper it looks like an 8-point game on paper, but a little closer if you watched it. The Bills basically have to get a high offense going, otherwise they lose games. Because their defense is not reliable.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot rely on their defense to win games for them anymore. Or at least not this year anyway.
However, apparently
the Browns find a way to lose most of the time. That's just the truth about the Browns.
Yeah. However, it seems like the commies can rely on their defense to win games. Because the Commanders beat the Texans 23-10. So
this Commanders versus Texans game was an illustration of just how far down the list the Texans are right now.
Yeah,
they can't stop anybody.
They're well on their way to getting the first overall pick.
The Texans might as well not have anyone on the field when the other side's offense is up. They might as well have no one because they stop nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll get a play here and a play there. They'll do a stuff here and a stuff there. But at the end of the day, if you look at their list of games and the results that they put up, they suck. They're terrible. Their defense is bottom 5 in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they get, stats padding from sacks and stuff, maybe they'll get some of that. But they keep losing games. And it's to teams they really have no business losing to. And that's all I have to say about that. Commanders looked good only because the Texans defense doesn't exist. This is about as much as you're going to see out of Commanders against really anybody. And I know they've scored more the week prior, but again, that was an even weirder fluke. The Commanders' offense is not amazing. They have a couple of players, like 3 guys total on the team, between McLaurin and Gibson and a couple others. They have some things.
Yeah.
But what they don't have is reliable quarterbacking. They have very little defense in any normal game. And it's really only against teams like the Texans that they can prevail.
Speaking of
What they did.
unreliable offenses, in the case of one of these two next teams, that shouldn't be the case. The Eagles beat the Colts 17-16.
Yeah, this was very nearly the upset of the year. This would have been the absolute upset game of the entire year.
Even more so than last week when the Commies beat the Eagles.
Yeah, probably even more so than that one, because the Colts had been royally sucking.
Yeah.
Up until Jeff Saturday took over, they had been sucking royally, playing terribly.
Mm-hmm.
And so now things are a bit turned around a bit for the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
And they came real close to beating the Eagles here. Real close. It's impressive.
Which
impressive.
Which has me thinking about week 12 and going with whoever the Eagles are playing to pick to beat them then.
Well,
at this point.
But my point here I would make is that the Eagles defense has basically fallen a little bit from where they started this season. They started this season being dominant, winning games on defense, smashing opponents, and the Eagles' offense was also revved up. They're doing amazing things. What's happened in that game right there is that the Eagles' offense was struggling against the Colts' defense.
And
that's what happened in that game.
And the Eagles' defense held up their end of the deal. They kept the Colts under 17, but under 20 points.
Sure.
So
we know that the Eagles' defense is one of the best in the league. They've gone down a little bit since the start of the season, since the first half of the season. Really, they've gone down a little bit. Because even against a team like the Colts, they should be giving up less than 16 against a team like that, which had struggled mightily all year to get anything going. The fact that the Eagles almost lost is the most shocking thing to me of the entire week, I think. That was real. That was a nail biter game, and you probably would have been biting into your finger if you were one of the Eagles' ownership. Because if they lost to the Colts, then they would have serious questions about the fortitude of their team.
Speaking of biting nails for fan bases, the Patriots beat the Jets 10-3.
Yeah. This is a game that was a lot better looking, again, in watching than in the stat sheet, or at least the overall score sheet anyway. It looks like the Patriots, did well, but they actually struggled through the whole game against the Jets defense. But once again, the Jets are a really lopsided team, maybe the most lopsided team in the entire league. They have a top 5 defense, but a bottom 5 offense.
Mm-hmm.
They really need to figure out what the hell they're doing on the offense side. Because
they say that defenses win championships, but it's offenses that get you there. And the Jets ain't going to get to the championship to win it. They could win it, but they ain't getting there.
Yeah.
Same thing in this game goes for the Patriots. Patriots have a top-tier defense, have a bottom-tier offense, and both teams were facing each other, and one had to win. Unless you had the American Dream Dusty Rhodes as an NFL official, then both teams would tie. Anyway. So, any last minute thoughts on Jets Patriots before we get to the Rams and Saints game?
Oh no, that's pretty much just the story of it. Both teams don't have much of an offense, but the Jets defense is where the shining goes on. And the Patriots defense this time around, in this particular game, the Patriots defense was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always amazing. This was kind of like an outlier performance for them. But it was a combination of their defense being stout and the Jets' offense being god-awful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like a really amazing defensive performance. And it was technically a really high fantasy scoring defense for both sides in that game. So.
Yeah, so in the next matchup, I would use the analogy of hitting rock bottom, but I think the Rams are still free-falling, though. From becoming Super Bowl champions to losing every fucking week of the season. And this week was no different. They dropped this one to the Saints 27-20.
Definitely not an unexpected outcome if we didn't already know they were having problems. They could have won this game if they hadn't lost Kupp. They hadn't lost Cooper Kupp, they'd have won this game.
Yeah.
But because he's on IR, injured, and the quarterback situation is in flux, the whole team's a bit of a mess. The defense is still there for the most part, but they're not stopping a lot. They're not the same they used to be. They're a mess. And the offense is an even bigger mess just because we expected better things out of this offense than we're getting. And the defense is not stopping anybody because the Saints should not be putting up 27 against that team. That team was amazing last year. This year, they're not all that great. They're in the middle now. And it's just it made the Saints look good in that game. And the Saints haven't been great all year either. They've been struggling like crazy. So I guess it's sort of going to give you a wrong impression of both teams, really.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least going to give you it's going to lay bare just how far the Rams have fallen, for one thing. And for the other, it's going to make their Saints look good when they're not as good as that game looked.
Yeah. And with our next matchup, the segue has to be this. We go from a Super Bowl champion who is free-falling to a team that's clawing, and that's a good one for this particular team, clawing their way out of the black hole of despair. The Detroit Lions beat the Giants 31-18.
Yeah, once again, the Lions' offense soars. I don't quite know what to make of it anymore now that the Lions' offense is now putting up a solid 25 or more in each game now.
And seemingly on a winning streak.
Yeah, seemingly on a winning streak, which is really strange to say for the Lions.
Which now has to make us sit and pause and actually contemplate the next Lions matchup. Thanksgiving here. To a point.
But yeah, against the Giants, no less. See, the Giants' defense hasn't been great all year, but their offense was keeping up with teams because they've had the running back Barkley, they've had weapons on the receiving core, they've had relative success,
and
through a bunch of these seasons. But now they lost to the Lions, and handedly too.
Yeah, so the Lions' defense also was roaring with all claws drawn.
Yeah, it
Seemingly.
really. I think it's just a tale of the Lions' offense clicking on all cylinders. The Lions' defense is nothing amazing. In fact, they're quite bad. But the Lions' offense is like right now, it's rocketing upward to the upper middle portion of the league in terms of output.
Yeah, and speaking of not clicking, the Raiders beat the Broncos 22-16 in an overtime thriller.
And yeah, the lowly Raiders beat the lowly Broncos. Both of these teams don't know whether they're coming or going these days.
And Devontae Adams getting the winning score to seal it.
Yeah, Adams was like the second best wide receiver of the week.
Yeah,
among everyone in the league. Like he was a superstar this week. And won the game for the Raiders. It's amazing he can't do that every week, you know. But it's those rare moments for the Raiders right now because the Raiders are still basically doomed. They have no chance to get anywhere in the playoffs. If anything, they have a chance of playing spoiler for somebody. That's about it. And the same could be said for the Broncos. The Broncos are a huge mess now.
Yeah.
They've been having trouble for years, of course, but pretty much ever since Peyton Manning called it quits. But to lose to the Raiders is really kind of a low for the Broncos right now. Because the Raiders haven't beat anyone this year. I mean, they've lost to almost every team they've played this year, except the Broncos. I mean, so it's just bleak for both these teams, but more bleak for the Broncos, it seems.
Speaking of bleak, I was talking about it quite a bit earlier. Well, now we finally gotten to it.
This is the strangest game of the week.
Yeah. My note on the Vikings Cowboys is just one note that I have. Vikings didn't know that they had a game this week. They thought they were on bye week, apparently. So the offense didn't show up to the game. The defense didn't show up to the game. The only people that showed up to play the Cowboys were the place kicker, the punter, and the long snapper. Which would explain 3 points.
Yeah.
But after thinking about it, I come to realize I'm fairly certain that because none of the offensive and defensive players knew that they had a game, the Vikings had to scramble, so they found a bunch of high school students to pretend to be the Minnesota Vikings, and this happened.
Yeah, it was kind of a sad thing to see. I mean, the tale of this game, by the way, on the Vikings offense side.
Yeah.
Okay, on paper, this looks way worse than it actually was. What you ended up having in this game was the Vikings would get downfield and fail over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to understand exactly what happened here. I mean, we know the Cowboys defense is one of the best defenses in the league. So this was going to be one of the best versus one of the best. This was going to be a hard game for both. You would have thought. Well, the Vikings defense got outclassed like crazy against the Cowboys offense. The Cowboys offense run over the fucking Vikings defense like they were nothing.
So are the Cowboys from the land of Wakanda now? Wakanda
well,
forever?
I don't know about that.
Anyway,
I don't know about that, but the Cowboys definitely put on a show on offense.
And apparently the end zone is protected by the shield from the Vikings. Anyway.
Yeah, I really hope that this is not a portend of doom for the Vikings here, because they've been doing marvelously. In fact, as of last week, I pretty much had said that they were the best team in the league.
Yeah, and I was believing you, and then I saw this, and I'm like, I don't believe you anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this game. Something failed. Something fucking broke. Something changed.
Keeping in mind, like I've said in the past, we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings, the team that failed to get their first-round draft pick in 2 straight years and ran out of time. horribly mismanaged the knee injury of Dante Culpepper and Teddy Bridgewater to the point where they were never the same quarterbacks ever again after leaving the Vikings.
I mean, just think about it like this: an offense with such stars on it, Diggs, Hawkinson, Jefferson.
Well, Diggs is in Buffalo.
Well, sorry, not Diggs. Never mind Diggs. Diggs is in Buffalo. Not Diggs. Jefferson and Hawkinson
Thielen.
and Thielen. Yeah, Thielen and
Cook.
And Cook. The list is amazing, and look at how little they were able to do in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it's a testament to, but it has to be a testament to something.
And to those who will be watching this later, yeah, there is a reason that we're leaving Cousins off of that list.
Yeah, no, I mean, because he's a journeyman and he's always been a journeyman.
Yeah, he is not the answer at quarterback. I've said that since he had been signed.
He didn't do any favors for the team in this game. In fact, he might be sizably responsible for what happened here.
Yeah,
because a bunch of the points that were scored by the Cowboys were scored on defense, which is often the quarterback's fault,
as well as the offensive line.
Yeah, the offensive line and the quarterback are responsible when the defense scores points.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the guy that's usually to blame. Maybe it's an innocent bobble, maybe it's a fumble by the wide receiver or something after the catch or whatever.
Yeah, so we'll see what this leads to going into. I think the Vikings play on Thanksgiving, I'm pretty sure, so we'll see who they're playing there. I'm fairly certain I'm probably going to pick their opponent after that.
Yeah. My point, though, is that Cousins only got 105 passing yards in this game.
Which is arguably worse than Justin Fields. Figure that out.
Yeah, it was an anemic quarterback performance.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
However, the opposite score or type of game, Bengals beat the Steelers 37-30.
Yeah, this was a surprise I was really surprised that the Steelers could keep up.
Yeah.
The fact that it looks as close as it does on paper is amazing to me. Like, there's something that's woken up on the Steelers side of things on offense. Yeah. Either that or the Bengals defense just doesn't exist. Maybe that's the case. I'm not really sure which is true. Either the Steelers have found their offense or the Bengals just don't have a defense.
Oh, we
already knew the Bengals offense was good, though.
And a quick fun fact back to the Cowboys-Vikings game. Tom Grassi was watching it and reacting to it on his channel, but he was watching it from NFL Red Zone or whatever it was. And NFL Red Zone or whatever cut away from the Vikings game before the end of it.
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, on CBS, where I was watching it, they stuck with it until the clock hit 0.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't streaming marching to it. Tom Grassi was, and he was then forced to call the Steelers-Bengals game at that point, or the Broncos game at that point, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
While trying to get any information on the game that he was supposed to be reacting to on his stream, to tell people what the hell's going on with the Vikings-Cowboys game.
Yep.
So, good job, NFL Red Zone. You fucked up. Anyway.
Yeah.
Even though you rightfully switched from a shitty fucking game, in the case of the Vikings-Cowboys, from a certain point of view, to anything else.
It was a massively disappointing game, is what it was, because it was supposed to be an evenly matched, one of the best versus one of the best, and it became a landslide. What the hell is going on in that game? It reminded me of the Super Bowl between Peyton Manning's Broncos and Russell Wilson's Seahawks. Where they won. Seahawks suddenly had a 43-7 victory. I still don't know what to make of that game.
That was the exact conversation and comparison at work the next morning too for us.
Yeah.
Because
shocking.
Because I said to a number of my fellow team members at the store, I feel like this was worse than the slaughter of the Broncos in the Super Bowl by the Legion of Boom at the time.
Yeah. It's a shocking landslide victory for the Cowboys. I don't know where this came from, and I don't know what's wrong with the Vikings, but they better fix it quick.
The only
the
only upside for the Vikings was there wasn't like the snap over the quarterback's head fuck up at the start of the game like there was for the Broncos. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Broncos actually scored a touchdown at some point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Vikings didn't even do that anyway. But back to we're getting into Sunday Night Football here, so
yeah.
And the only comparison for this matchup and how it went was the Bengals-Steelers game previously. The Chiefs beat the Chargers 30-27. This was a fucking football game, folks. On Sunday night.
No, this was the best game to watch of the week if you were watching it.
Yeah, and
this was the most exciting game of the week.
And Keenan Allen's back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know what's funny about that is that Keenan didn't figure in as much as his backup did, as much as the behind string guy did.
Behind string
guy. So what I mean by that is, Keenan is first string, right?
Yes, I know. He's the starter.
They've got an up-and-comer who's in second string, who he was setting up fireworks again this week, despite Keenan being back. This game right here was basically just what happens when two really good teams, normally really good, especially the Chiefs, made each other and actually all show up.
I think I want to start using that. I think I want to start using that to refer to backups, the behind string.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Both teams, both sides of the ball, both came to the game. And it's what happens, 30-27 is what happens when you have complete teams showing up to play a football game. Either team could have won this game. Either team would have deserved to win the game.
And then finally we have the Monday Night Football game. And as it turns out, the Cardinals' offense without Kyler Murray is as functional as the election system in Maricopa County.
Yeah, they really don't. Without Kyler, they have nothing.
Yeah.
On offense. I mean, when I say that, it's because he enables DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, Hopkins did well, got enough yardage to say he did well in fantasy, but you can see the score result is they only got 10 points. And only getting 10 points wins you against only a handful of teams. You don't win a lot of games with 10 points.
You'll beat the Vikings. You'll beat the Jets. You'll beat the Panthers. And you'll be competitive against the Ravens this week.
And the Texans. But anyway.
No, you'll tie the Texans with 10 points.
That would still put you in overtime and you'll be competitive.
And you'll tie the Patriots. But
the Cardinals' defense has struggled all year.
Yeah,
it's been having holes, injuries, all sorts of problems, and they've been losing a lot of games on the defensive side of the ball.
And,
but the Cardinals' offense had roared back when DeAndre showed back up after the suspension. They found their offense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that they've lost Kyler, they've lost their offense again.
Mm-hmm.
But the 49ers that showed up for this game, that 49ers team was the team from last year.
Yeah.
That was last year's 49ers that showed up to this game. And last year's 49ers were a contender for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So this game didn't go so well for the Cardinals.
So we'll see if they're contending again with the same guy that led them to a Super Bowl appearance, in Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
But on that note, players coming back from bye week for week 12, Tom Brady from the Buccaneers, Mike Evans, and everyone else from the Bucs. The Jaguars are coming back to anyone who has a Jaguar on their fantasy team. Tua and the Dolphins come back from bye week, and Geno Smith and the Seahawks come back from bye week as well, along with Lockett and everyone in Seattle. So that was every matchup from week 11. So, on to Week 12's matchups. And at 11:30 a.m. on CBS, we have the Bills in Detroit playing the Lions. I think the Lions are going to put up a fight against the Bills here. Nord?
Yeah, this is going to be, or at least it should be, a shootout. Whether or not,
if recent games from the Lions are any indication, then the recent downfalls of the Bills are, then yeah.
Yeah, the Bills' defense has been struggling, so that's really a good recipe for the Lions to just go off one more time against them.
So officially, who are you going to pick to win, Bills or Lions? I'm going to rock with the Lions here.
Yeah, it's all a matter of whether the Bills can keep up. And they shouldn't be able to against the completely non-existent Lions defense.
So are you going with the Bills then?
I think I do have to actually go with the Bills.
That's fair. At 3:30 on Thanksgiving, we got the Giants going to Big D to play the Cowboys. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys here, especially after the wholesale slaughter in Minneapolis against the Vikings.
Yeah, this game right here is going to be literally the hardest test the Giants' offense has faced all year, and so yeah, it looks a bit like a Cowboys W here.
Yeah,
I have to go with that also.
But I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys dropped this to the Giants either.
No outcome would surprise me with this game because weirder things have happened, but I would still go with the Cowboys. Yeah.
However, given everything we know about these two teams that are playing on Thanksgiving night at 7:30, on one side you have Bill Belichick, Patriots. And on the other side, you have a team so demoralized that either one of two things are going to happen. They're going to further sink into despair, or they're going to come out pissed as fuck from being embarrassed that bad by the Cowboys in Minneapolis. Patriots go to Minneapolis to play the Vikings.
On Thanksgiving night.
Yeah. Yes. So one of two things is going to happen. Either Bill Belichick and his defense are going to dissect the fuck out of the Vikings offense, akin to the Cowboys, or worse, or the Vikings are going to come out so fucking pissed that the punter should stay home. One of those two extremes is about to happen. And if I had to bet, seeing as how I've known how the Vikings operated for 25 years now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm still here in Minnesota. I'm going with the Patriots. I think Bill Belichick is about to dissect the down and out Vikings offense about as bad as the Cowboys did last week.
Yeah.
Because
if the Vikings lose this game,
yeah,
then they are officially in trouble.
Yeah. Because on the one hand, you can say whatever you want about Bill Belichick, evil emperor, evil this, evil that, but he is an evil genius on the defensive side of the ball for sure, as the head coach.
If he can find a way to win games, he sure does.
Yeah. And if he can find a way to absolutely dissect your offense like he's a surgeon operating on a dead body on an operating table, he'll do it.
Yeah.
And after last week, right now, the Vikings offense looks like a dead body in spite of all the talent that they have on offense at the moment.
Yeah, they flatlined. I don't quite know what's going on there. Yeah. They need to fix it.
Uh-huh.
It's easier if you're facing the Patriots in prime time on Thanksgiving.
Night.
Everybody's watching. You better not look stupid because people will think you're stupid. From then on, people will think your team sucks.
However, the first
Thanksgiving night.
Yeah. So to recap, You got Bills, I got Lions. We both have the Giants. I got the Patriots. I assume you do too?
I'd love to be able to pick the Vikings. I think the Vikings can do it. I still believe that they're one of the best teams in the league this year.
So you're still picking the Vikings anyway.
Yeah, I pretty much have to. I
Okay.
still have faith in them.
Think about that for a minute, folks. A guy in Arizona has more faith in the Vikings than the guy from Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Well.
And I just realized I'm wearing a Patriot hat, so whatever. But still.
Yeah.
I just grabbed a random football hat and put it on for this. I just grabbed the first football hat that I saw, not even realizing what the fuck it was until now. But yeah, I picked the Patriots anyway. But speaking of, for the first Sunday game this week, two dead bodies bouncing off each other. The Broncos go to Carolina to play the Panthers.
Well, yeah, except I think I'm going to definitely go with the Panthers on this. And the reason I go with the Panthers on this is because their defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
And the Broncos suck on both sides.
I agree. I'm going with the Panthers as well.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the Panthers could lose that game.
The Bucs are back from bye week, and they play the Browns in Cleveland. I'm going with Brady and the Buccaneers. You?
Yeah, I mean, this one could go either way. This is kind of a sort of it. Both teams have struggled. Both teams have stumbled a bit. Both teams have had their trials and tribulations this year.
Yeah.
The Browns last week found their offense, but it wasn't quite enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just a matter of the Buccaneers, whether or not they show up.
Yeah.
And maybe they will because they seem to have all their weapons fresh off a bye week.
It kind of feels weird because there are certain parallels between the Vikings and the Buccaneers at this point. Both have talent on offense.
Mm-hmm.
Both have a decent or serviceable or good defense, per se. Supposedly, in the case of the Buccaneers. And yet, but that's where the similarities stop. The Bucs have Brady. The Vikings don't have a franchise quarterback, and the Vikings are 8-2, and the Bucs are at 500 at 5-5.
Mm-hmm.
So on paper, if you look at the talent on offense, it's very similar between the Vikings and Buccaneers, but for some reason, both have been struggling lately.
Yeah, as far as the Buccaneers-Browns game goes,
yeah.
If the Buccaneers on defense are not good enough in this game,
the
Browns will eat them alive on offense.
Yeah.
Because the Browns do have offensive weapons.
It is a coin flip, but I'm still rocking with what people call as the GOAT, Tom Brady, even though fuck him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if the Browns offense last week can show up to this Buccaneers game, they can win.
Yeah.
So I might go with the Browns on this.
That's fair. Up next, we got the Ravens going to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars.
Yep.
In light of their recent performances for both teams, I don't know who to pick here.
The Jaguars have had relatively decent offense. Their defense has really spited them a lot. And the Ravens really haven't had a defense most of the year. Their offense has been good for most of the time, though. Until
they run into an actual defense, which the Jags don't.
Uh-huh.
And the Ravens' defense has been hit and miss. So I would be a high-scoring thing.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a game where the Ravens are facing the Jags defense, which is easy enough for them to get far enough downfield, where Justin Tucker can kick the shit out of them.
Yeah, kick the shit out of them. I like that.
No, I know, but when we're talking about Justin Tucker, we are talking about one of the best kickers to play.
I know.
Kicker in the last 10 years.
You're also talking about someone who gets paid to kick things, kicking the shit out of another team. That's funny.
Yeah, no, and the reason I say that, though, is because Justin Tucker is capable of doing 4, 5, 6, 7 field goals in a game.
Yes, I know.
You know, he's done it before, and he can do it again against anybody that lets him.
Yeah. So,
They just have to. The defense of the Jags just has to be good enough to get the Ravens downfield. To let the Ravens run downfield, but not let them score, and then Justin will do the rest.
yeah, so on that note, up next, the Texans go to Miami to play Dolphins. I got the Dolphins in this. Oh, and I got the Ravens beating the Jaguars.
Yeah, I also would have the Ravens beat the Jaguars, and I think it's going to be down to Tucker. I really do.
And I think it's going to be a close competitive game, too, between the Jags and the Ravens. But the complete opposite with the Dolphins and Texans, yeah.
If Tua's playing, he's gonna destroy. He's gonna murder the Texans. It's not gonna be close.
Akin to the Cowboys murdering the Vikings. Only this is the other Texas team getting slaughtered.
And the only difference is this time we expect the Dolphins to destroy the Texans.
And the Dolphins are going to have steak to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of wholesale slaughters, the Bears go to New Jersey to play the New York Jets. Have fun saying that. A New York team plays in New Jersey. Haha. Anyway,
here's the trouble with this Bears Jets game. Okay, you have the Jets defense, which is one of the best in the league, in top 5, but they have no offense.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not the Bears, who don't have much of a defense
or offense,
can keep the Jets from scoring is the question here. The Jets may be deciding to unexpectedly feast on the Bears because of how bad the Bears defense is.
It wouldn't surprise me because this loser back here sucks.
No, yeah. The Bears, if the Bears offense can handle the Jets defense, the Bears can win. But if not, then it's going to be the Jets defense that scores the points in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jets will end up winning over the Bears. And that's actually my pick. I picked the Jets.
Yeah. I picked the Jets too for obvious reasons that we've already stated.
Mm-hmm.
This, on paper, should be a shootout. This next one. Bengals go to Tennessee to play the Titans. If this was last year, this would have been a shootout. No, I think the Bengals are going to beat the Titans here.
Yeah, the Bengals offense has been really hard, really, strong lately. And the Titans defense is not making a name for itself this year. And really, the Titans offense lives off of a few players, a handful of players.
Yeah.
And when I say a handful, I mean like 2.
Well, we know that Julio Jones and A.J. Brown aren't there anymore. The only name I can think of is the running back.
Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Derrick Henry.
And that's it on offense, so their ground game.
Yeah, and the Bengals defense has been bad, but is it bad enough to where the Bengals high-powered offense can't overcome the Titans?
The Titans ground game.
The answer to me on that one is no. The Bengals probably going to win this game on offense.
However, speaking of knowing who's going to win a game, or at least I think I do, the next matchup, the Falcons go to Washington to play the Commies. I got the Commies in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case of 2 teams with no defenses and maybe an offense depending on what week it is. Sometimes the Commanders have an offense, sometimes they don't. And sometimes the Falcons have an offense, and sometimes they don't.
However, sometimes the Commies do have a defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like this past week.
I think these are 2 middle-of-the-road teams, and this may end up being a surprisingly good game.
Yeah. However, the next matchup...
But I have to go with the Falcons.
However,
I've seen more offense out of them.
That's fair. I got the Commies, even though I hate the idea, and you got the Falcons. However, the next matchup, I expect a wholesale slaughter in the desert. The Chargers go to Phoenix to play the Cardinals, or to kill the Cardinals. At this point, bro.
So, Jay, yeah, you're talking about the Chargers versus Cardinals, right?
Yep. Chargers go to the desert to wholesale slaughter the Cardinal.
Yeah, the Cardinals. I doubt that the Cardinals are going to provide much defense against the Chargers.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether the Chargers offense will keep it up. Because if the Chargers can keep it up without much defense, you see that neither one of these two teams have much defense.
Yeah.
Okay. But they also have shaky offenses that have both produced and failed to produce. I think if Kyler is present for the Cardinals, they have a chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
If he's not, then they don't.
Yeah.
And if the Chargers can actually get Keenan Allen going in this game,
Then
they can win.
Yeah. Well, we saw that they had
22
trouble doing that, and they still won last week in the case of the Chargers.
I'm going to go with the Cardinals, but only because I think Kyler is going to be in.
And not because of hometown bias.
No, not at all, because they've been really missing the mark this year.
Fair enough. Next up, we got the Raiders going to Seattle to play the Seahawks, or to get slaughtered by the Seahawks. Obviously,
yeah, I don't see.
Obviously, that means everyone that I got the Seahawks beating the Raiders.
Yeah, this is either going to be a beatdown by the Seahawks, or it's going to be a surprise upset. I mean, I doubt the upset. I always doubt the upsets. That's what makes them upsets. But yeah, the Seahawks is an easy pick here. I don't see how the Raiders, who have been screwing up all year long, are going to overcome the Seahawks, who've been roaring on offense.
And speaking of slaughters, next up, the defending Super Bowl champions, LA Rams, have their Super Bowl rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. The Chiefs are obviously going to win and avenge the Super Bowl loss.
As hilarious as it sounds, despite this being a rematch of the Super Bowl last year, this is actually a chance for the Rams to upset the Chiefs. This shouldn't be an upset situation.
Again,
upset situation.
It could be a trap game, but I'm going with the Chiefs based on
the Rams have too many problems.
Yeah,
I don't see the Chiefs losing.
They've sucked all year, and Kupp is out. What are the reasons why they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl anyway?
Mm-hmm. Yep. He was.
And now he won't be there for this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the Chiefs. Now, next up, the Saints go to Santa Clara to play the Niners. I got the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, if the Niners of last week, this past week, show up for this game, the Saints have no chance.
Yeah.
And so, weirder things have happened this year, but 49ers look like they got an easy win here.
Speaking of easy wins, the dead-on-arrival Packers go to Philadelphia to play the 9-1 Eagles.
Yeah, this one on paper should be a beatdown also.
Yeah.
This is like an ultimate test for whether the Eagles are serious. They almost lost to the Colts.
And the Packers-Eagles game is the Sunday night game, too.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the Eagles almost lost to the Colts, which would have been a massive upset, probably the upset of the year. But if they lose to the Packers, that would definitely be the upset of the year so far. If they so, I definitely got the Eagles in that game. I don't know why they lose to the Packers.
And finally, Monday Night Football, we got Jeff Saturday's best chance to win a game as head coach when the Steelers go to Indy to play the Colts. I got the Colts in this one.
Yeah, I'm pulling for the Colts too. I really hope they do beat the Steelers. The Steelers' offense has been very good in the past few games, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But their defense doesn't exist, and the Steelers' defense is like, who even is that? So the Colts have a good chance here, and I really hope they do click on offense and pull it off.
Yeah, same here. And as we usually do, we look at only the first game of the following week before we start doing our outro each and every week. And on Thursday night in week 13, it's the Bills going to Foxborough to destroy the Patriots.
Yeah, historically speaking, this game was always a laugher.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years almost.
It's been the other way around. When the Bills would
This
go into
game has been-
Foxborough,
yeah,
the Bills would get destroyed, no question. Brady, Gronk,
yeah,
Branch, and so on and so forth.
yeah.
The Patriots.
Welker, Randy
Yeah.
Moss, the whole list of players
Yeah.
that kicked the Bills' asses.
The shoe's on the other foot these days because Mac Jones obviously is not the answer at quarterback for the Patriots. At least it doesn't look like it at this point.
Yeah, the Bills have one of the best chances they've had in my lifetime of beating the Patriots here.
Yeah.
Just because their team finally has it together, for the most part.
And I see a little further down, the Packers go to Chicago to play this loser behind me, the Bears.
Yeah. But yeah, that Thursday game on Patriots versus Bills, I have to go with the Bills, and that's because I don't believe in the Patriots.
So if you're a fan of two zombies fumbling around a frozen field trying to pick up a football, the Packers and Bears game is for you next week, anyway, or in week 13, I mean.
Yeah, in week 13, yeah. That'll be the week after next week here.
Yeah. So that'll be funny.
Yeah.
I actually look forward to watching that because apparently in southeast Minnesota here, because most of our football is broadcasted from La Crosse across the river in Wisconsin. My town is essentially a secondary market of the Packers, seemingly.
Well, sure, and it's been that way for decades.
Yeah, so, and also apparently stuck as a secondary market also for the Vikings too. So
you know very well that the only three teams that have ever mattered is the Packers, the Bears, and the Vikings.
Around here, yeah. So I feel like that I'm stuck in an intersection of secondary markets for three different NFC North teams: Bears, Packers, and Vikings.
Yeah.
So if I have to have a team based on the secondary market I'm in, there's this dead body behind me on the wall, the Bears. The dead cheese out in Wisconsin, and the seemingly starting to die Norseman up north. Oh, joy.
Yeah, the season's got a little weird up in that division because now you got the Lions that are doing quite well, the Vikings that just fell in their face,
which is why
the Packers that can't get up off the ground, and the Bears which have been skidding along the runway as they try to take flight.
Which is why I'm about to say something that no one living in the NFC North has ever said, ever, much less on camera live on YouTube. This is the year for the Lions to win the NFC North and go to the playoffs, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and see, that's the thing. I'm looking forward to, I really hope the Vikings can turn it around and not have any more embarrassing losses. Because if they can pull that off and actually do well in the playoffs, they might actually play. They might actually play in Arizona for the Super Bowl.
Oh, but it's the Vikings, so don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to see that. I would love to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl for the first time ever in their fucking existence, but yeah, because they've been to two since the Super Bowl era started. The Vikings have been to two. They lost both of them handily.
Yeah,
I think the first one was in the late 60s, I believe. And then the second one was somewhere in the 70s, I think. But don't quote me on that, because I might be off on my decades and years and whatnot. But they've been to two, lost both of them. One of which was against the Dallas Cowboys, of course.
Yeah, they made the Super Bowl in 1969, 1973, 1974, and 1976.
Okay, so four of them. Yeah.
They lost all four of them.
Okay, so they've been to two more than I thought. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
But they still did not win any of them.
Mm-hmm. And only team that matches their crappy Super Bowl record as the Bills.
Yeah. And up until this week or recently, both teams have been playing very similarly to each other. Quite well up until recently. But as it is, any last minute thoughts on NFL football before we close out here?
No, it'll be an interesting week. In our leagues, it's kind of it's really competitive. Actually, it's more competitive than I thought it would be. Some of the AWOL teams are 7-2.
Yeah, and I got some moves that I got to pay attention to come the morning. So yeah.
We got ghost teams going to be in the playoffs here.
But
ghost owners are winning. It's terrible.
So what are you going to be up to after this stream?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I was playing. You bought me Ace Combat 7. I was playing in that a bunch. I already put in a bunch of hours on that.
Skies Unknown, yeah. By the way, happy early birthday. By the way, we will be live here on the channel on Nord's birthday on Saturday for Breaking Rocks.
I'll try to be, that's for sure.
Yeah. Because there's a lot to talk about between an update to the bullshit in Maricopa County with the midterm elections, Donald Trump announcing he's running for president, which Shashi and I did cover that on the previous Breaking Rocks, but you weren't there, so that'll be your chance. And
yes, and of course all of the unbannings on Twitter now that Elon is active.
But the biggest news that we'll be covering, which will be the main story, that Bob Iger is back at Disney replacing Bob Chapek because they fired him out of a fucking cannon.
Yeah, as if Chapek and Iger are any. I mean, really, both of them should be fired out the cannon.
Okay, and I will get more into this on there, but my personal opinion on the Iger thing at Disney. Keep in mind who fucking started the ball rolling on killing fucking Star Wars. That was Bob Iger, folks. So
I know, right? That's why I'm saying that. I'm saying it's just not an improvement.
Yeah, but
it's good or bad, your opinion, whatever, on Chapek leaving, but it's not an improvement seeing Iger back.
But stay tuned on Saturday. We're gonna try to do that early because because Rob will be out with our family for his birthday, so. I'm leaning towards starting like sometime before noon my time, so that would be just before 11 yours. At that point, does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it does. I sure hope it does. I mean, it's going to be the craziest weekend in a while. I mean, Thursday's going to be busy, Friday's going to be interesting, Saturday's going to be busy, Sunday's going to be interesting.
And if we have to start any sooner, you can tell me, and we can start even sooner than that, as far as I'm concerned, on Saturday.
Yeah. I think it should work.
However,
I'm gonna try and stay awake for 4 days.
However, it's gonna have to be like after 9 o'clock because that's about when I get home from work. So at that point, but as it is. But if any of that changes, I'll let you know. But as it is, we'll see you guys on Saturday at some point for Breaking Rocks in the morning. And also, I guess that'll be the birthday stream for Rob here. So
yeah.
So come drop by. We'll talk about Disney. We'll talk about all this other shit, and we'll have a good time celebrating Rob's birthday on stream. So you're turning 26, like your gamer tag says, right?
You're funny.
We'll see you guys on Saturday morning. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
And welcome to the rebellion.